My name is Gord Johns. I'm the Member of Parliament for Courtenay-Alberni. I'm super proud of this institution. It's a world-class institution and a leader when it comes to disability management. The reason that I am so proud of the work that they're doing is because they're helping people that need help the most. And when we think about someone that hasn't returned to work because of an injury, their chances of returning to work are 1% if they're not back to work within 12 months. So accommodating those workers when they've been injured is so important. It's important for the GDP. It's important to plug economic leakages for our country, but it's critical for the people that are impacted, that have been injured, and their lives, to ensure that they live the best life possible. And educating workers, training workers, employers to be able to support those workers is absolutely essential. And with over 1 million people that are, living with disability in our country, and not able to work, that haven't returned to work, that have been injured, we need to do everything we can to unlock that potential. And so the work that Pacific Coast University and Workplace Health Sciences here in Port Alberni, in my riding, that they're doing is transformational in the lives of the people that have been impacted. This is an institution that is a global leader. And when we started the path of supporting the work that was being done here at this institution, we were really fortunate to work with ministers of Veterans Affairs that were open to hearing, the impacts that this training could bring to injured veterans. So obviously we need to support first and foremost people that have put their lives on the line, the sacrifice that they've made to protect our country, that have been injured. And we started with a pilot project to support injured veterans, to get them trained, because of course veterans are most and more likely to continue to want to serve fellow Canadians, especially other injured veterans. So training injured veterans to help serve other injured veterans was how we got started. And we demonstrated to Canada how important and successful this program was and how impactful it was for those that have been injured. And then we were able to attract attention. I tabled a motion in the House of Commons calling for a national disability management strategy to help support those people that have been injured in the workplace and getting them the accommodation that they need. And we were able to get the federal government to award the first ever grant to get moving towards a national disability management strategy, a $3 million investment. And it's just been incredible how successful it's been and how many lives it's impacted. But we have so much work ahead of us. We need every federal department to, basically sign on to make sure that they're taking lead in educating all of the management at all levels of government to ensure that we're accommodating workers that have been injured with physical and mental impairment while they've been in the workplace, especially those that are serving Canada, but also in the private sector. Because if the federal government and governments don't lead, then we can't get the private sector on board. And that's critical that we have that kind of leadership. We're really fortunate because we had a provincial government and a great premier in the late John Horgan that took the leap. And they jumped in and they took great leadership provincially and followed suit really with the federal government, with the work they did. And we had a great minister, Shane Simpson, who's no longer serving in cabinet. He's retired from politics, but continues to serve on the board of Pacific Coast University. So we talk about champions and people that once they're connected to this work, they can't leave. Like myself, I'm a lifelong now commitment to supporting those that have been injured in the workplace and supporting disability management. And we've got a long way to go. Like I said, if somebody doesn't return to work within 12 months, they have a 1% chance of returning to work. That is a stat that we need to change. That is absolutely critical, that we all come together collectively, knowing that that is factual information. I think when any Canadian hears that, they agree that we have to do everything we can to change that stat. And we can. And so when we see, the disability management program, we see employers getting educated on how to accommodate workers, getting that training, that knowledge, and we're seeing those workers back to work within that 12-month period. And every day that a worker, after they've been injured, they're sitting at home or they're unable to get back to work, we know their chances are less likely. So it's really critical that early intervention happens. And that is really key, that their employer leads when it comes to that. So ensuring that employers, get that really important skill set from institutions like this institution, it's going to be transformational for their employees when they've been injured, and their lives and their families, which are directly impacted by it. So it's really important. It's actually really cheap investment also for governments, for what it would cost the government for somebody that isn't returning to work in terms of loss of GDP, but also the supports that they're going to require from government if they're not working. So, ensuring that people live the best life possible when they've been injured, and that we know the employers that have been able to accommodate workers have benefited tremendously, and we get testimonials repeatedly from those businesses and those government agencies that have been able to retain those employees and maybe find a different place for them or a different way to accommodate them. But it's transformational. When I talk about over 1 million people that have been injured or are living with disabilities that aren't in the workplace, when I talk about 99% of workers that don't return to work within the first 12 months, the majority of them are living in poverty. And that, we can prevent a large portion of those workers that are able to be accommodated in the workplace by doing that, by accommodating them, by educating and training their employers so that they can support them and get that early intervention happening, and avoid people living in poverty and being subject to poverty. So it's really important that the education component that is performed here, and it's critical for our economy, for the well-being of people, but tackling poverty. So this initiative of tackling poverty that they're leading on is so important. And again, it's the best money spent by government. It's very cheap for the return.